Tap that. I don't want to filter. That's the last thing I want to do. But I'm not a fucking coward. Okay. Let's see here. I wish there was a way. Oh, I accidentally clicked the Citadel. How about that? Let's quit that. Yes, quit desktop. I will be streaming that later. Why would I hide my live video? Let's turn that down too. Anybody watching that's gonna know what that blue light was. Fuck. God damn it. Just waiting on Windows to stop crashing. Alright, we got two watchers here. Howdy. I like your account name there. Punisher. Punisher's actually one of my favorite Marvel heroes. Oh, look at that. We got 3 people commenting. Hi, everybody. This is a QCA, so if you have questions, comments, or, want answers, obviously, this is what this live feed is. Feel free to ask stuff. As far as what's up, you guys just missed it. My face was glowing blue because Windows crashed again. Oh, I love the Punisher movies. I like them all, actually. I've seen them all. I think Thomas Jane himself is actually a really good actor. My favorite actor who's played the Punisher, though, of course, just has to be John Berthel. What is your question, Sticky Boy? I'm doing all right. It was like 92 degrees today here in California, so little toasty. Punisher Warzone was better. Agree to disagree. There's some things they did do better. The villain was better, for example. Although I really do like the Russian fight scene. Mainly because we watched a WWE actor get stabbed for real and then not even react. I would say Punisher Warzone has a better menagerie of weapons on hand, especially just that revolver was just fucking crisp. Sticky Boy, you still haven't asked your question, man. Stage fright? Jesus Christ, dude. I would like to see another Punisher movie, though. Especially with John Berthel. I would like to see a fresh take or maybe an expansion. Hell, I'd like to see other actors try the Punisher role. I feel like the Punisher himself is just one of those characters that have been kind of not really bound to one time period or one set of ideologies. You didn't ask a fucking question, dude. I'm scrolling through. I don't see a fucking question. All you asked was if you could ask a question. Alright, dude. You're fucking. You're gone in timeout for 24 hours. Dude seriously just refused to, like, ask a question here. On a fucking QCA, you're not gonna ask a question. You're gonna fuck around and pretend like you're asking a question. What the fuck is wrong with people? Oh, look at that. CET is finally working. Let's just do good. No, I didn't want to bind that. I guess L. Jesus. Some of these fucking people. Yeah, no. Whoops. I didn't mean to select none. All messages. Isn't there another John Wick movie coming out? I don't think there is. At least not with Keanu Reeves. I think there is a spin-off coming out, so there is that. Let's see. What is this? What is my top 10 Marvel characters? Ooh, that's a tough one. My top 10 Marvel characters, well, any particular order, because I really could not put them in any particular order. But Punisher, of course, would be one. Daredevil would be another one, and Spider-Man. Spider-Man was a favorite from when I was a kid. And so, if you put Spider-Man on a list, you have to put Venom on a list. Although, over the years, I would say I like Carnage better. So, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Punisher, okay? I always thought Luke Cage was kind of a cool idea. I just really didn't like how expensive the comics were, so that's like one of the only reasons why I don't own any Luke Cage comics. Um, they get like a cult following. It's crazy. Uh, Johnny Blaze definitely has to be on that list. So let's see. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Five more. And I understand that Iron Fist was like a Bruce Lee knockoff, even though it was a white guy. I didn't really care for Iron Fist. Um, Five more. Well, five more. Wolverine, of course. I mean, the idea of was it like a 4'2" maniac with razor sharp claws, just carving everybody up like Christmas dinner. Uh, Entertaining as hell. Wolverine has to be on that list. Jean Grey has to be on that list too. I mean, the Phoenix was just fucking incredibly powerful. Uh, and then every video game that features Jean Grey and everything, uh, just very handy character to have, especially if you're playing the X-Men Apocalypse on PSP. Which I did have. I do like Daredevil, but I wouldn't like him enough to put him on a top 5 list. So that's 6. Yeah. Bishop. Bishop from the X-Men. I like his character. I like his design. I thought he was a neat character. At the time this was a time in comics when they made, when he was created, and these were before my years, mind you. Before my years, they tend to make black characters to just be black, which doesn't age very well. And when somebody grows up in the 90s and you go watch shit from the 80s or 70s, it doesn't pan out. It just doesn't fit, right? So, Bishop was a really well written and rounded character, and he was a little ridiculous. but he wasn't just a black character to be black. I know that seems ridiculous, but I have similar critiques about other characters. You know, do I think it's great that we get representation of other characters? Yeah, absolutely. Like Spawn's one of my favorites, but I want characters to be well written rather than trying to pander to one specific group. Um, so Bishop's on that list. Three more. Three more. Well, Tony Stark. I like the idea of a anxiety-ridden tech genius who's battling his own alcoholism. That is pretty fucking kind of cool of an idea. I don't think they touched on it in movies, but Robert Downey Jr. did have his own battles with addiction as well. So that was kind of a cool parallel, I guess. And then number 9, I would put Doctor Doom, because people glorify like the Fantastic Four and everything, and then you look at Doctor Doom himself. He does some pretty morally questionable things, but he is like your textbook example of what people would call uh, the self-righteous king, in the sense that overall he does the good for everybody around. So and then Reed is always opposed to him, even when Doctor Doom is even doing like really good things and things that are not morally questionable. Reed has to come in and fucking ruin it. And you look at Reed himself, and Reed is actually one of the worst fucking villains in Marvel. When you just like you take any account of Reed, and it's all horrible crap. If he hasn't done anything horrible yet in a comic line, he eventually will, and that's just kind of how he is. That being said, uh, you know, I would still put, just because of how characters are and everything. Another Fantastic Four character that I think is really great is actually Johnny Blaze. Or is it Johnny Blaze? Yeah, it is Johnny Blaze. And yeah, he's a little hot-headed. He's a little fucking arrogant and everything, but he grows and he develops to actually become a better hero. Uh, and so that's what I would put in like a 10 spot, and he'd be the low man on the list. That's in no particular order. But you look at Johnny Blaze, and he shows character growth and development, but he still retains that kind of spiteful energy. Uh, you know, and this is at a time like you look at that. In Spider-Man I rate higher, but Spider-Man's really fucking depressing. He loses to a terrorist. In some realities he ends up homeless. There's all these like other fucking things, right? Uh, there is no like upside or winning with Spider-Man. There's just the inevitable downside that eventually comes. Whereas Johnny Blaze, he grows and develops. There is no downside. He eventually rises above his own downsides. Even the parts that are doom and gloom, even the parts that aren't doom and gloom, he develops beyond it. Tony Stark was pretty cool. Sherlock's Home movie was in. Uh, yeah, I miss those Sherlock movies. I get why Robert Downey Jr. doesn't do those anymore. It's a scheduling thing, if you can believe it. Um, those were just interacting with his Marvel scheduling, and well, Disney just has more fucking money to play with than anybody doing the Robert Downey Jr. Fucking Sherlock Holmes stuff did. With that in mind, I would really love to see like a Tropic Thunder, a second movie. Uh, it's just that movie's funny. Robert Downey Jr.'s character, for those that don't know, was an Australian man in blackface who really believed he was a black man. Uh, okay, now that just really tickles the Blazing Saddles sense of humor for me. I don't know if you guys seen that movie. If you haven't, that is a cult classic. Uh, Blazing Saddles killed the cowboy movie industry. Just absolutely fucking annihilated it. You know, excellent parody movie. Actually, also had a really good actor. I cannot remember his name. Starred in a lot of cowboy movies. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white gentleman. Damn it, what was his name? He was also not only was he in Blazing Saddles as the sidekick, he was in the movie My Name Is Nobody. Uh, another cowboy film. And then the black actor, the main protagonist of Blazing Saddles, is a very famous comedian, just a little bit before Eddie Murphy's time. So, I really just kind of enjoy that touchy humor, where it's something that could have been stupid, and there are parts of Blazing Saddles where it's just dumb humor, but there's also parts of Blazing Saddles where it's like that's a really valid critique, and that's really well written and well done. So, and I think Tropic Thunder really just kind of towed the same line overall, especially with similar subject matters. Any other questions or comments? And also, yeah, I know, wow, that was a lot. uh, Deep thoughts. Now, I don't know if you guys can hear me playing Cyberpunk, but I think the male V voice actor sucks, like Monkey Dick, which is usually why I play female V, but if you play female V, you don't get certain romance options and shit. So, yeah, male V, I replaced their voice with Joshua Graham from Fallout New Vegas. What do I think about the Deadpool and Wolverine movie? That movie was excellent. I would say the first Deadpool movie was better. Um, because what's his face? Reynolds was just kind of allowed to run free reign and write his own stuff. But that's not really the fault of the film itself because at the time there was a writer strike going on. So a lot of the jokes are not improvised, and I think that was just a downfall of the movie. I would love to see if, I would love to see like a director's version of that, Deadpool and Wolverine, except Reynolds is allowed to go off script because I think that version would be way better. Um, but I also do kind of appreciate Reynolds respecting the writer's strike. I mean, the dude's just a decent human being, or at least he tries to be. And that's the thing is like, if you're gonna be a person, like, be a decent one if you can, or if you're gonna be indecent, find a valid reason to be indecent. There it goes. Well, it's funny how they added different industries like Fox 20th Century or something. Well, I think that's partially because all of those are like owned by Disney. Disney realized that they can just spend money and buy the things we love and then resell those things to us. And even if they lose money in the long term, there's so many things out there that they can keep doing it and keep making money in the short term. And the downside of that is they keep, ruining things. Just look at Star Wars. And, we got a lot of good things like Marvel and some of that stuff, or Andor. I loved Andor. That was great. But at the same time too, though, some other things were not so great. And that's the thing is like you kind of have to watch out now because like Fox Century, like a bunch of those different companies are owned by Disney. So there's so many different names, but at the end of the day, it's still Disney. Oh wow, we got 4 watchers now. That's crazy. I'm also trying not to crash my car in Cyberpunk. And by car, I actually mean a Harley Davidson Thunder God. Yeah, I have a lot of mods. One day I'll have a better PC and I'll stream Cyberpunk, but this one's just it can play Cyberpunk no problem. It's just not good enough to do OBS and Cyberpunk. So, they ruined animated movies and now Star Wars. Oh yeah, yeah, no. This is actually something I was talking about. I think I even did a little small video on it. Um, like the lady who played Rey Skywalker. Who the fuck is she? Like, uh, if you look into her career, she's like a tragedy actress, but she only had like 2, maybe 3 plays to her name that were anything like actually like important. Uh, and you look at that and it's like, okay, so you have an inexperienced actor who realistically can't act their way out of a fucking plastic bag. And you look at that and you look at how terrible the Star Wars movies, and uh, she's supposed to be like on par with Luke Skywalker, right? Mark Hamill. And then you look at the lady, and she doesn't even do anything after Star Wars. She's just sitting around fiddling her fucking money, jerking off. I don't know, but you look at that, and then you look at Mark Hamill, and it's like the dude is the gold standard of voice acting. Okay, you look at Carrie Fisher. She's actually, she was a very famous comedian before and after Star Wars. Okay. And that's the difference is like, you can tell Disney cash grabbed and went with what was cheapest and they cut a lot of corners. Um, and like the first film, I think it was Seven. Seven was okay in a vacuum. Okay. They had room to grow. They had room to build upon it. They could have made it was rough. It was not well received, but they could have done more. But then the second film, like all the character growth and development, just goes out the fucking window. It's a repeat of Seven. So what the fuck is the point of 7 and 8? They spin around their heels and waste time. You look at film 9, and that was crap. You know, so, yeah, I'm not a fan of the new Star Wars movies. And then, I don't even bother watching, like, the live action remakes of shit, because they're terrible. Every time I hear about them, it's something fucking horrendous. Lilo and Stitch comes to mind immediately. The original cartoon was you don't leave family members behind. That message was real fucking clear. No one gets left behind. If you love somebody, you take care of them. And then, the new Lilo and Stitch movie, the ending, because people were complaining about it and bitching about it. I didn't even bother to, spend money on that. The end, the movie's ending of the live action was, what's her face, the big sister of Lilo, giving up Lilo to adoption. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, it's the complete opposite. And here's the other thing, people get this political idea of, oh, strong women, whatever, and then they do their writing and everything, and they don't actually portray strong women. Okay, I grew up with strong women in my life. All right. My mother was a strong woman. My grandmother was a strong woman. My aunt was a strong woman. My father wasn't fucking present, right? I know what a strong woman looks like, okay? And what they portrayed with like live action Lilo, that's not a strong woman. That's a woman that abandoned her little sister so that she could what? Go to fucking college? You could have gone to college and still kept your sister around anyway. So you would have struggled. It would have sucked. But it wouldn't have been that much more of a struggle. It wouldn't be more of a struggle than, a single mother in the 90s who had to, drop out of college to deal with her kid, would it? You know, a 90s, a point in time when everything was starting to go to shit. Okay. Look at me. Here I am. I'm alive. And, here's the other thing. I am not the easiest fucking human being alive. Okay. Even as a kid. I started drinking when I was 14. All right. I started doing hardcore drugs when I was 14. Okay. I've been smoking pot since I was, 12. But mind you, I don't even smoke pot anymore. Tobacco, sure. Alcohol, sure. But, could you imagine being an already struggling mother trying to, deal with like two bankruptcies, also trying to date, a dude, and then also dealing with a child who you don't even know is on like very hardcore drugs. We're talking, shit like methamphetamine, PCP, cocaine. Like I was on a slew of different things. Okay, uh, and you factor in that I am just generally an aggressive person, just normally. Okay, so like yeah, you can struggle a hell of a lot harder than trying to keep your baby sister and go to college. There are a lot worse struggles than that, and and one of those struggles I've seen them. I've seen some of them firsthand. I've seen them secondhand too. You guys are hearing about it third hand. You know, yeah. No, Disney just cares about money, and I think a large part of that is because Walt died. Walt was a anti-Semitic, but whatever. Yeah, no, the live action was, from what I hear, horrible. Yeah, and that's the other thing too is like the original animation of Lilo and Stitch was a great movie. So it's a shame that they go back on these things that were great that we loved, and then they change them and ruin them. I yeah, another one I didn't bother to watch was they're trying to do the live action Lion King. I didn't bother to watch that either. Uh, they want to do a Tarzan, and I guarantee you they're going to ruin that. Because Tarzan, its message and everything is about the difference between true, real masculinity and toxic masculinity. That's the message. You look at Tarzan himself, and he wants to protect Jane because she's a woman. That's what men do, and uh, you know he respects things and everything. And sure, he's a little fucking caveman brain. All right, he's not infallible, but he just genuinely wants to protect his family and people who are vulnerable. That's a positive masculine trait, right? And then you look at the villain, and the villain wants to enslave all animals. He wants to basically send Jane to her death and kill things and shoot things because I'm a man. All right, and the message is real fucking clear. It's toxic masculinity versus real masculinity. And that movie is great. And then, they even like got into a little bit of showing femininity too. Just being that there's nothing wrong with being a woman either. Because Tarzan's mother, she can't fight a fucking leopard, right? The husband goes, he does that, he dies. Okay, he knows he's going to die because it's a fucking pack of leopards and he's got what, a double barrel shotgun. That's not enough. That wouldn't be enough for a guy with a machete. Probably it's not going to be enough for a pack of fucking leopards, right? And so, now imagine being the wife. You're not going to be able to fight a pack of leopards either with just your bare hands, and you have a child to care about. So what does she do as a woman? She does what she can. She flees, and her motherly masculine instinct is not to, you know, throw the baby at the pack of fucking leopards, because logic, from a complete inhuman logic standpoint, that would save you. That's horrific and that's terrifying, but that would actually, logically speaking, that would save you. Her motherly instinct won't let her do that. What does she do? She hides Tarzan and she lets herself get mauled by fucking leopards. Well, and see, that's the thing too, is on the subject of the father protecting Tarzan, yeah, that's another example of a positive masculine trait. There is, I'm a libertarian. Okay, I don't really agree with, Democrats or Republicans or conservatives or liberals. I find a lot of their things redundant actually, but there is truly such thing as toxic masculinity, and what that really is not masculinity. It's when you use the word masculinity to justify your cowardice. Okay, wanting to kill and destroy and maim and harm and be a fucking coward, and then labeling it under, oh, it's because I'm a man. That's toxic masculinity. It's cowardice, right? Whereas you look at real masculinity, and it's protecting things. It's doing things that realistically you wouldn't want to do, and confronting things that realistically you wouldn't want to confront. And that is that's real masculinity. That's positive, right? And here's the thing: you can tell the difference between fake masculinity, toxic masculinity, and real masculinity, because real masculinity is a fucking sacrifice. It is a blood-soaked sacrifice every fucking time. Well, and that's the thing too, is as far as politics go, I mean, politically speaking, uh, the middle of fucking nowhere, a 40 in my hand, and a shotgun in my lap. That's my politics for you. Just leave me the fuck alone. Whether you agree or disagree with anybody politically or don't want to be involved, the problem becomes is simple as that the two sides want to forcibly involve you. So that's really my thing on that. Keep fighting my fucking hair. I have my fan like right next to me, so what ends up happening is it blows my fucking hair into my face and mouth, which is not always the fun thing. And I do have ADHD and I am fucking autistic, so when I'm hyperfixating on gaming and doing a live feed, the last thing I want to do is eat my own fucking hair, like some kind of mouth breathing retard. Jesus Christ, dude. That was like 5 headshots in a row. Take cover, my guy. You're gonna cut me off, huh? Let's see. Speaking of movies, here's a really hot take. I don't think of course, the newer Terminator movies are not as good, but I don't think that in a vacuum, like if you just, you know, watch them and ignore the fact that they're supposed to be a part of the franchise and just treat them like side stories, they're not really that terrible. Just throwing that out there. And of course, T2 is my favorite. Like, come on now. That's not even a question. That's everybody's favorite. So is T1. Actually, between Terminator 1 and 2, I find Terminator 1 is uh, more easy watching when rewatching it. Yeah, no, they're not half bad. I didn't mind Dark of Fate. I didn't mind, Genesis. Uh, like you can even find relatively okay things in like T3. Salvation. Salvation. I wish they had split into two movies. Is the problem with that one? If they had split that sucker in two movies, it would have worked. So, okay. Oh, now the guy gets out of the truck. Speaking of other movies that ain't half bad, I recently watched Havoc with Tom Hardy. Uh, that was pretty good. One of those gritty crime thriller type movies. It was not half bad at all. It is not something I wanted to see in theater, I would say, but considering it's available on Netflix, it's perfect. Jesus. Police officers in Cyberpunk, by the way, hell of a lot more aggressive than the PS4 version. They really fine tuned that. I wouldn't say all shows suck nowadays. A vast majority of them do. I think there is such a thing as too much competition. Um, and I know how ridiculous that sounds, especially from somebody like me who's, a capitalist libertarian. Um, but there is a point where competition becomes less about quality or even quantity and starts becoming a race to the bottom. We see this in the video game industry too. Quality goes out the window and it's about how cheap and how crappy you can do things to make the most money. And I think that's what's happening with these, all these like shows and everything is they've thrown quality out the window, and so now they're just seeing, oh, can I make this cheaper? How cheap can I, make things that I can still get away with it? And so that's the name of the game. And unfortunately, the quality is just not fucking there. Yeah, that's the other one is stuff gets rushed to work. Stuff doesn't get fully developed. People complain about Beastars being short, and I do too, to be fair. But I understand why Beastars was as short as it was. The dude got burned out. He didn't get the financial backing. He didn't get any support. The show had one writer, and the one writer quits, and the show's over, right? You know, to avoid that sort of thing, you need multiple writers. Just, but this industry in its current state doesn't want to do those things. And that's the Beastars is the perfect example of rushed. Uh, and other TV shows get like that too. Demon Slayers can be milked for like fucking 11 seasons, right? That show is excellent, but now we're already at the end. And I would say if I took all the movies plus the episodes, we realistically only got like 4 seasons total. Andor is, like the rare exception, and then, uh, and I feel like in the case of Andor, he never was going to find his sister. And people point that part out of it, but I just think realistically that was another thing he was going to have to sacrifice. Um, and that's the kicker of that one. So. And we see that with a lot of video games too, actually. Uh, one of the perfect examples of it is Aliens Colonial Marines. That would have been fucking awesome. That would have been like the next big thing if it wasn't for all the bugs and glitches. And all the bugs and glitches were because it got rushed and all the code has typos. And so there's actually a mod for that game online if you play on PC. Unfortunately, I own the PS3 version. But yeah, like some modder out there went through all of the code, fixed all the typos, and the game actually fucking works amazingly. Like it's a really good game. But it's a little case of too little too late. GTA 6 coming out next year, I couldn't be any less interested, honestly. I didn't even like GTA 5. I liked GTA 4. I liked Vice City. San Andreas just wasn't my thing. Um, I don't know why. It wasn't. I think because I was too busy playing Vice City. But yeah, no, I couldn't be excited for GTA 6. I have GTA 5, and it's just like it feels like they have a lot of things, but not a lot of things to do well in GTA 5. And I feel like GTA 6 is going to be kind of the same boat. Um, and like Red Dead Redemption, I fucking love. Like, I absolutely fucking love playing Red Dead Redemption. I still do play it occasionally. But I didn't even bother to play Red Dead Redemption 2. They had quite a few DLCs and monetization schemes and everything that just made me kind of nope the fuck out. So, uh, and that's speaking of downturns like that. Activision, of course, has had a lot of those as well. Borderlands is in the middle of starting that shit, and I've already made videos, complaining and bitching and whining about that. Because what I see from like Borderlands is a lot of what I saw from Call of Duty. So, and I feel like Grand Theft Auto itself isn't quite there yet in terms of scummy business practices. But I bet if we give it just another decade, they will be. So. Yeah. Here's the thing. Um, they're as far as being a bigger game, right? Cyberpunk is fucking massive. Okay, and I'm playing it right now, right? And if we talk about Cyberpunk itself, I have mods to make it even bigger, right? More guns, more vehicles, uh, you know, extended missions with certain characters, things like that, right? There is a point where things become so big that it's quantity over quality. Um, And that's one of the things I felt like with GTA 4, as I felt like GTA 4 actually had a more of an attempt of quality than GTA 5. GTA 5 had more, but I feel like it wasn't ambition that caused them to have more, whereas GTA 4 is so limited because they were ambitious with it, and I think that's kind of the difference there. And Cyberpunk is the same boat essentially because ambition almost killed the game on launch. These devs were trying to see how much they could get in and how could they make it work well, which makes Cyberpunk 2 a hell of a lot more exciting than GTA 6. Because now they don't have to deal with the growing pains that they had to deal with, which means now they can possibly realize some of their ambitions that they had. The other thing too is like the size of like map is good and bad. If the map is empty, then I don't really care. If the map is huge, but it has a lot of things to do, then that's great. Skyrim, you can't walk more than 5 minutes without something happening or some place to explore. Whereas, like Morrowind, and I love Morrowind. Morrowind is one of my favorite games. But Morrowind, when you walk around, you can walk dead ass, like, I swear to God, you can walk 30 minutes, depending on where you are, and find nothing. Not one bandit attack, not one quest line, not one fucking nothing. And that can be peaceful, but, it's like Morrowind is huge. It is like 4 times the size of Skyrim, okay? And so it's like, what cost does that size come with? Is it at the expense of gameplay? So, like, saying that you have a big map is not necessarily exciting to me. In fact, depending on the context, it can be not exciting. It can be the opposite of exciting. So, let's see. Ooh, Jesus. I get a new chair, man. This chair's not the most comfortable thing in the world. It's not the worst, though. I've sat on worse things. I think, because I shit on Bathsheba too for some of the things that they do. But I think Skyrim doesn't get a lot of credit for finding the right balance of size versus gameplay, and I think that's a pretty good standard. Cyberpunk also does it really well, which is incredible because everything's so huge. But you can walk, across the street and find like fucking 2 quests. So, yeah, you have a good one too, man. It was good talking with you. Speaking of Skyrim, actually, I might as well get to tinkering around with Vortex here. Probably piss myself off somehow. Okay, I gotta turn off Copilot. And by Copilot, I mean Wingscribe, because I totally and legally own games from the 70s and 60s. I actually don't have anything torrented right now, but I might torrent something later. Nexus mods, let's see. Some Creatures Standing Still, Skyrim Special Edition. Okay. Well, looks like we got 0 watchers, so I will just go ahead and end the stream here, and I'll probably do another one of these if anybody actually runs through this.